but I did respect him. I don't respect him anymore because he say I'm not gonna do what they want me to do and this and that.
No chance. But then I watched it the next month. I was like, he actually did way better than I thought he would have did. But people forget Jake Paul rostered Ohio State rostered, so he's tough. He's not as good boxer, as good skill, but he's tough.
Paul beat Anthony Joshua. That's insane. That's not real. That's not real in any facet. There was never a chance. There's never a chance.
After the Anthony Joshua fight, Canelo Alvarez openly ridiculed Jake Paul, telling him to stop acting like a legitimate boxer. He criticized Jake for trying to enter a level of competition he clearly doesn't belong in, urging him to stay in his own lane instead of imitating real professionals. Canelo left no room for ambiguity. He viewed Jake's boxing ambitions as absurd and made it clear that pretending to be something he isn't only exposed the gap even more.
Takes, right, but you need to do your best or do what you do, not try to be something else. Just do your best as a person. Sometimes it's enough, sometimes for...
Dillian White acknowledged that Jake Paul never realistically had a chance against Anthony Joshua, though he admitted surprise at how long Jake managed to stay in the fight. He credited Jake's durability, likely influenced by his wrestling background, and noted that survival, not victory, was clearly the goal. Even so, White was firm that this should be the endpoint. Absorbing repeated power shots, suffering injuries like a broken jaw, and stepping into extreme mismatches isn't intelligent or sustainable. He made it clear that if he were in the ring with Jake, the fight wouldn't last long. Jake demonstrated toughness, but continuing on this path only increases the risk of serious, long-term harm.
But then I watched it the next month. I was like, he actually did way better than I thought he would have did. But people forget Jake Paul rostered Ohio State rostered, so he's tough. He's not as good boxer, as good skill, but he's tough. Wrestling is a very competitive sport in America, and to be a Ohio State wrestling level, you have to be they're physically tough and physically strong. So yeah, he was tough. That's why he survived in there. He did what he had to do in there. He got tagged with a few shots, and he did extremely well. AJ did poor.
In those situations where the fighter is that negative and had those kind of tactics, he went to ground a few times, etc. I don't think people quite understand it. It doesn't matter who you are, it's quite difficult. People expect AJ within 20 seconds to literally, with the first punch thrown or the first jab thrown, just to knock him out. It's not that easy, is it, when a fighter is kind of going in there to just survive?
It's always easier to beat someone that's coming to win than someone that's in there to survive. But they should have known that. They should have known that Jake Paul is never going to come to win. But it's just mad that AJ couldn't cut the ring off. He just made him run. He couldn't cut the ring off and hit with punches, and he was swinging and missing a few times. And obviously Jake Paul was hitting with a few punches. I was like, I was surprised that he and I was surprised that it took so much runs to get him out of there. And then when he did knock him out, he didn't knock him out. He broke his jaw and stuff, but Jake was alright. He just sort of got up and just said, my jaw is broken. He didn't get sparked. I was kind of surprised. I was very surprised. Because that right hand was a big one. I thought, damn, okay. He took it and got up. So maybe Jake is a physically tougher and stronger person than people think he is.
I'm assuming you don't blame Joshua for the money being talked about, 40, 50 million, for doing that. No.
No. I'll take that. I'll definitely take that. I'll fight Jake Paul next if he wants it. I'll take that. But I'll go after him though. I'll tell you what, I'll definitely put him away 1 or 2 rounds. No way he's getting past that. Because that's like, that's such a big moral victory for Jake saying that.
Canelo Alvarez acknowledged that Jake Paul has genuinely improved compared to his earlier outings, noting sharper technique, better timing, and increased durability in the ring. He admitted that Jake's progress is visible and that his commitment deserves recognition. However, Canelo was firm that this is where the journey should end. In his view, Jake has already gone further than he should have, taking on opponents well beyond his level and exposing himself to serious injury. Canelo stressed that continuing down this road isn't smart, and that Jake has already proven enough. Now is the moment to step away, while he still can.
Hope he improved more and he do a really good job. Believe I say this and serious. I hope he doing really good job and improve in boxing and it's fine.
Would you ever entertain a Jake Paul fight?
Not right now. Let's see later when I have like a 50 years old.
Brendan Schaub dismissed the idea of Jake Paul beating Anthony Joshua as pure fantasy. While he acknowledged that Jake carries more power than expected for a fighter around 200 pounds, he emphasized that this still doesn't come close to elite heavyweight standards. According to Schaub, the gap in experience, skill, and physical preparation between Jake and top-level fighters like Joshua is massive. He stressed that no amount of hype or social media momentum can close that distance. While Jake deserves credit for his effort, toughness, and willingness to step into the ring, the reality remains that he is outmatched at the highest level. The belief that he could compete with world-class heavyweights ignores the clear difference between online fame and true boxing excellence.
Anthony Joshua, that's insane. That's not real. That's not real in any facet. There was never a chance. There's never a chance. And the Jake Paul fans, and I was getting this a ton from DMs and comments going, well, everyone has a puncher's chance. That's an uneducated opinion. A puncher's chance, yes. If they're in a bar and Anthony Joshua's there at the pub and Jake Paul were to sneak up behind him and hit him in the back of the head or, in the side or something, maybe, even then, he's a little light in the ass, but maybe that's a puncher's chance. In a professional bout where a professional fighter at the level of Anthony Joshua is at, and he is going into a ring knowing and expecting to get hit, there is no puncher's chance when there's that much discrepancy in talent level. There's not, especially when the size difference. And some of you will say, Jake Paul hits hard. To you, yes, to you. But also, Jake Paul hits hard for a 200-pound man. He wouldn't even measure in the top 1,000 professional heavyweight boxers in the world as far as the strength knockout meter, if there is such a thing. It's not possible. So a lot of you were tuning in for saying, well, he has a puncher's chance. That's not real. That doesn't exist here. And now they could do this, but I don't think it's going to get the same amount of views, but it would set expectations. If when this fight was announced, Jake Paul's team said, hey, we're fighting Anthony Joshua. Who thinks we can last 8 rounds? Who thinks we can go all 8 rounds? Who thinks Jake Paul can go 8 rounds and not?
Adam Booth offered a measured evaluation of Jake Paul's showing, noting that he managed to make Anthony Joshua miss on several occasions, no small accomplishment given the difference in experience between them. Booth pointed out clear improvements in Jake's footwork, movement, and ring positioning, showing a level of discipline that hadn't always been present in earlier bouts. That awareness occasionally forced Joshua to hesitate and reset.
Joshua and Jake Paul shared a ring. Your takeaways from the 6 rounds that we saw, presuming you watched?
I was impressed with Jake Paul. I thought that, following on from what we're saying, right? A few years ago, he was on Disney as a kid, acting up, and has decided to become a professional fighter. That takes balls, but he's obviously striving to be as good as he can be. You can see that in the way that he moves, the way that he is developed in how he's punching and performing. But to make a 2-time world heavyweight champion that's still live, AJ's still got something about him, to make him miss in such an accomplished manner. All right, so at times he was jumping out and running around, but there were times when he was well in range and still making AJ unable to land a clean, solid shot. He deserves a lot of respect for that. And then the shot that actually finished the fight, that broke his jaw quite badly, didn't put him out. That shot he threw with serious intention has put a lot of professional heavyweights to sleep. He didn't go to sleep. He actually finished on his knees, didn't he? Laughing and spitting blood out of his mouth. So, like they say, it's a special type of crazy and a special type of brave to do it. But I actually, hats off to him, because he showed that he's developing some accomplished little skills in there to look after himself. The size difference is always going to fatigue him.
I know everyone will come with the idea that, well, AJ should just go in there one round and smash him to bits, and that should be it. It was a big ring, right? Perhaps he could have cut the ring off a bit better, but would I be right in saying that regardless of skill level, if you forget about that with the two for a second, if someone is on the back foot on their bike and doing what Jake was doing, it's difficult, no matter who you are, no matter the kind of separation in skill level.
It's a big ring, and you've either got to run at him and look like a novice yourself, or just take your time and understand.
Sergio Mora expressed disappointment after watching Jake Paul's fight with Anthony Joshua. He pointed out that Jake relied on very simple movement, constantly stepping forward and back with minimal lateral motion. While this predictable pattern made it harder for Joshua to land clean, precise shots, it also revealed the limitations of Jake's approach. Mora explained that the strategy helped Jake survive certain moments, but lacked the sophistication required at elite levels of boxing.
Wasn't so much moving laterally all the time. He was literally running. Look at some of those rounds. He was running. He was going north to south, not side to side. He was running. Anthony Joshua should have been able to cut the ring off. And the times that AJ had Jake Paul cornered, he couldn't get shots off. He wasn't going to the body. He wasn't using his superior size on Jake. Like, I heard Nikita Badarian say afterwards that AJ was leaning on Jake. Come on. Like, Jake was leaning into AJ, falling into AJ, and that's why those clinches were taking place. AJ is purportedly one of the best heavyweights in boxing. AJ believes he's on the level that he should challenge Tyson Fury. That wasn't the kind of performance that makes me believe Anthony Joshua is still a high-level heavyweight.
Well, you're wrong again. Anthony Joshua didn't look great because he wasn't allowed to look great. When you're in there with a smaller fighter that refuses to engage, refuses to box, to fight, he's running. Think of Canelo Williams' school. Canelo didn't look good, and he got accused of not being able to.
Okay, can I just 1 second? 1 second. I knew you were going to go there.
Oh,
Williams' school is, or was, an undefeated 168-pounder with a deep amateur background. Jake Paul is a guy who lost to Tommy Fury with no amateur background. So don't compare the two. Don't compare Williams' school to Jake Paul. It's not the same thing.
No, but I can compare a man running for his life and another man running for his life. These guys didn't want to engage. They didn't want to try to win. Now, I told you Jake Paul was going to look for one shot. That's the overhand right. And once he misses that, he's going to realize he's in for a long.
Teddy Atlas provided a thoughtful breakdown of the Jake Paul-Anthony Joshua fight, stressing that his expectation the bout would go several rounds was based on legitimate boxing logic, not any stage scenario. He explained that Jake encountered challenges far beyond anything he had faced before, both mentally and physically. Atlas noted that the matchup forced Jake into a level of intensity and concentration he had never previously reached, requiring him to cope with real punishment while also handling the psychological weight of facing a world-class heavyweight. According to Atlas, this experience exposed elements of resilience and adaptability, even though the outcome ultimately went against him.
Rounds, I wasn't sure if there was going to be a silent agreement. I wasn't sure there was going to be a sparring match agreement that will spar for a while. I wasn't sure. I was honest about it. That's why I said it's going to go rounds. I wasn't sure if there was an understanding that, we'll play a little bit and then we'll get a little more and, whatever. So that was part of it. But there was real parts. Say that's the fixed part. That's the WWE part. That's where the people, and I'm with you. I get it if you want to think that. Here's why I picked rounds, and this is what I think I saw, and I know that in my mind I saw, was the factors that a lot of people didn't think about. 15 months off. And there was going to be some ruts. There was going to be some hesitation. There was going to be some time. He got knocked out by Dubois. Freaking 15 months ago, there were going to be ghosts in the attic. I don't care who you're fighting. You get in the ring again. It's going to take a minute to exercise those ghosts. The rust. You want to call it rust, whatever. It's going to take 5-6 rounds to get rid of the rust. But it's going to, the doubt, the self-doubt, the being in the ring for the first time with nothing in between after being knocked out. That was going to be a play. And then the size of the ring, 22 by 20. It's usually 20 to 20 is pretty usually around average. And it's 22 by 20. More room to elude, more room to move around, right? I thought maybe he'd go in there with track shoes. He didn't go with track shoes. He should have probably had better ankle support because he hurt his ankle a little bit. And that, he did. He rolled his ankle a little bit. So I thought those were real factors, physical factors, not WWE factors. Also, you know, some of the other factors was that Joshua is not a fast starter. So here you got 15 months in activity, not a fast starter to begin with. Come on, you with me, people? You know, now you are, because now we already...
Commentator Wade examined Jake Paul's approach, pointing out that much of it is shaped by the unusual path of his career. Unlike traditional champions who are obligated to defend multiple titles, Jake has the freedom to focus on high-earning, high-visibility matchups. That flexibility allows him to plan fights around entertainment value and financial upside rather than strict competitive demands.
26, and I don't think he fights a ton in 2026. I think it'll be a very slow year for him. Look for those two guys as the main two he would fight. I wish it was Tommy Fury, but I doubt it. On the other side, I want to see him get back into boxing specifically, get back into committing to this, because there is a massive, massive fight that awaits him in Tyson Fury. It's far past time that it happened. If they don't do it now, they never will. And yeah, man, I don't really know what else to say on this fight. As far as, you know, what happened in there tonight, I know on Twitter people are going to want their money back, or they're going to call it a bad fight or a sloppy fight or whatever. And then there's going to be people, you know, celebrating Jake's downfall. That was always going to be the case. Of course, the first time he gets rocked, dropped, and stopped, people are going to celebrate like it's the 4th of July, or it's their birthday, or like it's Christmas. So yeah, expect that, but I won't do that here. I won't, because I respect the hell out of him for going and doing it, and there's not any normal people on earth that would have done it. I don't care if you say, oh, for the money I would have, you're lying. And there's not many pro boxers.
Analysts Brian Campbell and Shakil Majwi pointed to Jake Paul's defensive focus as a major element of his performance. They noted that he leaned heavily on movement and evasiveness, constantly staying mobile and avoiding being pinned in the corners.
In terms of what he's doing in the boxing ring.
Listen, so long as people will tune in, and so long as Jake Paul is paid by Netflix or any broadcaster to air his fights, we're going to see this continue. And Jake Paul knows his business model, right? Now, this deviated, this AJ fight, which came together kind of last minute after the Tank Davis fight fell apart. But we know Jake Paul's MO here. It's find the most popular guy with the most physical disadvantages for me to fight. And Jake Paul has the benefit that he's turned himself into a villain, or in the pro wrestling circles, a heel. People tune in to watch. We did not tune into this fight to see competitive boxing. Most of us tuned in because we thought, here's Anthony Joshua. Here's a two-time unified heavyweight champion, a guy who physically just overwhelms Jake Paul. And we're finally going to get what Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva and Nate Diaz were not physically fit, whether it be through their size, experience, or age, to do, and that is knock out Jake Paul. And so, because I don't really feel like we got that satisfying comeuppance that a lot of people have been waiting for, it kind of gives Jake Paul a little bit of mystique, I'd almost say, to still try and string this along. Now, I don't know in terms, you know, he says he wants to be cruiserweight champion. I'm not quite sure what the competitive road there is, because let's make no mistake, the reason this fight lasted as long as it did is because Jake Paul focused exclusively on being elusive. He did his best, and kudos to him, right? He did a great job of not getting cornered. He was always on the gas until the gas sort of fell out from underneath him. And so I don't quite know, short of leveraging his popularity, how he's going to get to that title shot if he's not actually going to fight, like really fight an elite boxer. But if he's looking to make money, there's the KSI fight out there. There's the Tommy Fury rematch. There is ways for Jake Paul to sustain.
In conclusion, Jake Paul's broken jaw is a serious injury that requires careful attention and a full recovery. Given the severity, he should step away from the ring for the time being and focus entirely on healing. The injury underscores the intensity and danger of facing a top-tier heavyweight. Even with defensive tactics and evasive movement, the punishment he endured took a heavy toll.
Anthony Joshua-Jake Paul fight was going to be rigged. These x-rays definitely tell a different story. So on December 19th of 2025, as I'm sure most of you are probably aware, Jake Paul fought the two-time unified heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua at the Cassia Center in Miami, Florida, which was streamed exclusively on Netflix as part of a major boxing event that was promoted by Paul's Most Valuable Promotions. The ending result was Anthony Joshua won by knockout in the 6th round after Jake Paul was knocked down 4 times in total, twice in the 5th round and twice in the 6th round. Anthony Joshua landed 48 punches on Jake Paul compared to Jake Paul landing about 16 on Anthony Joshua. And this is the second professional loss of Jake Paul's fighting career, dropping his record down to 12-2. Now, Jake Paul ended up suffering a double broken jaw during the fight and was taken to the hospital afterward, skipping the post-fight press conference, probably because he probably couldn't talk. But in his in-ring interview, he said, "That was crazy. I had a blast. I think my jaw is broke." Anyway, as far as his professional fighting career is concerned, as of December 20th of 2025, he doesn't have any new opponents that have been announced, and it's expected that his jaw injury is going to take 4 to 6 weeks to recover from. Regardless of how you feel about him, that dude fought a 2-time heavyweight champion and survived. And I think we can all agree that regardless of how you feel, that takes some...
That's all for today's video. Be sure to stay tuned for the next one.